Chris Graham here for Trailblazer RV. We're going to take you through a new RV orientation on a 2015 Sportsmen 290 IK. Starting here at the front of the trailer. You've got your propane system and your 12-volt battery system. To access your propane bottles, you can lift up on the cover right here for access to the valves, or for access to the bottles themselves, just pull the cover off. You've got two 20-pound propane tanks. Both of these are full right now, and an automatic switchover propane regulator. Right now, you can see the supply arrow pointing to this bottle. That makes this the supply bottle and this the reserve bottle. There's a little sight glass showing red, indicating that propane is not flowing. But as I open this valve, the sight glass will turn from red to clear. Just like so. As long as both valves are open, the trailer will deplete the supply bottle first, then automatically start to pull propane from the reserve bottle. When that happens, you can switch the regulator over to the second bottle, remove the first bottle to go and refill or exchange it without ever shutting down your propane system. Behind the propane bottles is the 12-volt battery. This is a 12-volt deep cycle RV marine battery with two leads going to the battery. You've got a black lead and a red lead. Be careful with this one because this wire has seen some sun from UV rays or something like that, and the color has faded quite a bit. But it is has a red tinge to it. So black is negative, red is positive. With these flooded wet cell batteries, they do require a little bit of maintenance. We recommend once or twice a year popping these two caps off of the battery to expose the 6 cells beneath the caps. If you see water level particularly low in any of the 6 cells, especially if you can see metal plates sticking through the liquid, top up the liquid with some distilled water, put a good charge on the battery. We also recommend removing this for winter storage when you put the RV into storage. Remove the battery, store it inside somewhere where it's not going to freeze, and ideally if you can put a charge on it at some point over the winter just to make sure it stays charged up. Around the side of the trailer, you have your crank down stabilizer jacks. So once you get the trailer parked on the campsite and relatively level, crank the jacks down to be nice and snug with the ground, but don't actually lift the trailer with the jacks. They're not designed to absorb the entire weight of the trailer, just for stability. So just nice and snug with the ground. Here in your pass-through storage compartment, this is where you'll access your water pump. If you're going to do your own winterizing, this is a key part of the winterizing process. This is where you'll siphon antifreeze into your water lines. So you've got a couple of valves here on this water pump. Right now it's in the summer position, pumping water from the freshwater tank. So the valve to the siphon line is closed and the valve to the water line is open. In the winter, when you want to pump antifreeze through the system, close this valve and open this valve, and that makes this the suction end of the water pump. You can put this into your jug of antifreeze, turn on your water pump, and you can pump antifreeze through the system. For now, we'll leave it in the summer position. More components of your water system. Right here is where you'll fill your freshwater tank. You can fill it with a normal garden hose. What we recommend though is one of those white non-toxic drinking water hoses. That way you don't get the plasticky taste in your water. Or if you're camped at a site with pressurized water, you can hook up to the city water connection right here. If you're going to use your city water connection, we recommend using a water pressure regulator. Just a little brass fitting about that size, fits on the end of your hose, and maintains proper operating pressure in the water system so you don't over pressurize the lines. Here at the running gear, a couple of things. Your tires are inflated to 65 PSI. It's stamped right on the side of the tire, 65 PSI cold, and we do recommend running them right at 65 PSI. Your wheel nuts have been torqued to 100 foot-pounds, and we do recommend periodically retorquing your wheel nuts. If you don't have a torque wrench, just make sure that they're good and tight. And the other item of maintenance here is your wheel bearings. This rubber cap can be pulled out of here to expose a grease zerk, and you can grease your inner and outer wheel bearings using a grease gun, but that doesn't eliminate the need to repack your wheel bearings. It does prolong it, so instead of recommending a wheel bearing repack every year, as long as you're using your Easy Lube axles, maybe you do a wheel bearing repack every 2 or 3 years. But we do recommend, depending on how much traveling you do, regular repacking of your wheel bearings. Right here is your furnace exhaust. Not a whole lot to talk about here, except that it gets very hot. So make sure if you've got kids around the trailer, they know to stay away from that. This is your 110 volt power cord. So this is what you'll plug into the post at the campsite if you're staying at a powered site. It's a 30 amp power cord, and lots of campsites will have 30 amp service. We also supply the adapter to break this down from 30 amp to 15 amp service, so you can plug it into your normal household 15 amp power outlet. Your hot water tank is right behind that. This is a direct spark ignition gas electric hot water tank, so it can run on electricity or propane. If you're going to run the tank on electricity, there's a little black rocker switch down in the bottom of the tank here that needs to be in the on position, and then there's a secondary power switch for that inside as well that I'll show you when we get inside. 2 black reset buttons here. These are ECOs, and if you ever overheat the tank, mainly if it's started up without any water in it, you may trip these. Before you can start the tank up again, you'll have to reset them. The one on the left is for electricity, the one on the right is for propane, and if sometime for any reason your tank won't start up, come out here, press in on these 2 buttons, and hopefully everything should go back to normal. The other component of the hot water tank is down here at the bottom. You can pull this drain plug out to drain the tank in the winter when you want to winterize the RV. On the end of that drain, or on the end of that plug, is a rod about this long. It's your anode rod. And the function of an anode rod is to corrode over time to help preserve the inside lining of the tank. The impurities in the water corrode the rod rather than the inside lining of the tank. It does need to be replaced periodically, but it can get to be quite pitted and corroded looking before it's time to do that. Depending again on the quality of the water, somewhere around every 3 to 5 years, that anode rod will need to be replaced. Before you pull the anode rod out of the tank, make sure to leave the pressure off the tank using the pressure relief valve, just so that you don't get a hot shower when you remove that plug. Directly below that is your sewer termination system. Now we supply a new 20-foot medium heavy-duty sewer hose. It's stored in the bumper right now. When you go to dump your holding tanks, hook your hose up to here, other end goes into the ground, and you've got 2 valves, a larger black valve and a smaller gray valve. Always pull your black valve first. This is your sewage dump. And once the contents of the black holding tank have stopped draining, close this valve and open your gray valve to flush that sewer hose out using your sink and shower water. Once that tank has finished draining, you can close that valve as well. Always travel with the cap in place. Here at the back of the trailer is where the spare tire is mounted. Important to note that the trailer does not come with a jack or a wheel wrench. No trailer does. It's not a bad idea to make sure you have a wheel wrench or ratchet available with you in case you need to change a tire on the fly. You have two entry steps. To pull the steps out with two hands, reach underneath, roll the first step, flip the second, flip and roll, and they just ride there. Your awning is a power awning controlled from just inside the door. There's a black awning switch here with simple in and out. We press and hold the out to extend the awning. The awning extends 8 feet. You don't have to extend it the entire 8 feet. If you want to, if there's a tree in the way or something like that, you can stop it at any point. And once the awning is extended, this is also the height adjustable awning. So you can adjust the height of the arms from here. And if you'll come around here, you can see the adjustment here. So you can set the height of the arms. You can adjust one side or both sides. What we recommend is leaving one side lower than the other so you can control where your rainwater runs off. When you go to retract the awning, make sure that these two arms are within one or two adjustment settings of each other, just to ensure that the canvas rolls up straight on the roller tube. Follow me inside the trailer. I'll take you through a few more things. So the first thing we're met with inside the trailer is our slide switches. So we'll go ahead and run our slides out. Just like the awning, if you press and hold the out button, the slide runs out. And you can kind of see with these flush floor slides, the slide sinks down a little bit as it extends. And when it reaches its full extension, it's going to sink down again to make a flush transition with the floor. Just like so. Once you hear that ratcheting sound, take your finger off the button, but that's how you know your slide is fully extended. You'll hear the ratcheting sound. Same thing with the second slide. This one's not a flush floor slide, so it won't sink down when it reaches the end. You hear the same ratcheting sound, you know the slide's fully extended. Here in the kitchen, we have your gas electric fridge. So this fridge is automatic, runs on electricity or propane. So if we turn it to the on position and set it to A, that stands for automatic. If it has electricity available, it'll sense that and it'll always run on electricity. But if you lose power, if you blow a breaker or the power cord becomes unplugged or something like that, it'll sense that and it'll automatically switch over to propane so you don't lose the food in the fridge. This one has some temperature adjustment, one to 3 temperature settings. So I usually leave it on 2, but you might find that depending on ambient temperature and some other factors, you may need to adjust the temperature periodically. You can override the automatic on this fridge to only run on gas, and you may choose to do that if you want to conserve power, if you're plugged into a weak breaker, or if you want to cool the fridge faster. You might find that it cools faster on gas than electricity. Now, having said that, it takes several hours to cool an RV fridge down, so we recommend starting the fridge cooling the day before you load up. That way you know it's going to be cold by the time you load it with food. To turn off the fridge, press and hold the power button until the green light goes out. Here in the kitchen area, you've got your 3-burner stove top. With these burners, to light them, turn them to the light position and just light them with a barbecue lighter. It's not a bad practice to get into. Every time you change your propane bottles or refill your propane bottles, the first thing you can do is come into the trailer, open up your valves for your burners, and just light each of the 3 burners. This will bleed the air off of the propane system and make sure that your other appliances have no trouble starting up when they go to start up on propane. The only pilot light that you have to worry about in the trailer is here at your oven. So to light the pilot in the oven, turn the knob over to pilot on. You have to hold in on this knob and light your pilot right underneath here at the pilot assembly. Once you see a flame there, continue holding the knob in for 10 or 15 seconds for that flame sensor to heat up, and then turn the oven up to temperature. When you're finished using the oven, you can turn it down to the pilot on setting and just leave the pilot burning, or you can turn it all the way off and relight it next time you want to use the oven. Here on the rear wall is your thermostat. So this controls both the heating and cooling systems for the RV. We're not plugged into shore power right now, so we won't actually be able to fire up the air conditioning. But the operation is really simple. Turn the system over to cool and set the temperature that you want to maintain. If the fan setting is on automatic, it'll cycle on and off as need be via the thermostat. You can also just have the fan always on, running low or high fan speeds. And you do have the option of running that fan without the air conditioning as well, just by using the fan setting on the system. For the furnace, turn the system over to heat. There's only one fan setting for the furnace. There's not multiple, there's not high and low fan settings. And turn your thermostat up to whatever temperature you want. You can hear your fan kick on, and that fan's going to run for 15 or 20 seconds before the burner actually lights up. We should, in a second here, hear it click as that burner starts up, just like so. So now in a few seconds we would have warm air blowing through our vents. When it reaches temperature, or when we shut off the furnace, the same thing happens, only in reverse. Burner goes out immediately, but the furnace fan is going to stay on for 30 seconds, maybe up to a minute, just to go through its cycle before it shuts down. I'll leave that in the off position for now. Right here under the bottom bunk is your power center for the RV. So this is where you'll find your breakers for all of your 110 volt circuits and your fuses for all of your 12 volt circuits. It's not uncommon in an RV to blow a fuse once in a while, so it's not a bad idea to have some spare fuses with you. You've got primarily 15 amp fuses here, but also a couple of 40 amp fuses. So if you've got a few spares of each, just in case you need to change one out at the campground. The other thing with the power converter is it does make a little bit of a humming or a buzzing sound sometimes when it's operating under heavy load. Nothing to worry about there. It's just the cooling fan in it, similar to what you have in a computer. It's perfectly normal. Here in the bathroom, a couple of things to cover in here. You'll find your monitor panel right here. So you can check the level of your gray holding tank, black holding tank, fresh holding tank. All three of those are empty right now, and your level of your batteries. And this is showing low right now, partly because we're not plugged in, and also because we just had that furnace fan running. And the furnace fan will be the heaviest draw on your battery. So if you plug in the trailer, it will show charging on that monitor panel. Yeah, our battery is a little bit low right now. Also on this monitor panel is your switches to engage your water pump, water heater on propane, and water heater on electricity. Remember, if you're going to run this water heater on electricity, there's also that secondary black rocker switch on the outside of the tank. It needs to be in the on position. To run the water heater on propane, turn this switch on here, and there's the DSI fault switch. If for some reason the tank fails to light on propane, this red DSI fault switch will turn on. At that point, the first thing you should check is your propane tanks. Make sure your valves are open and your propane tanks have propane in them. But if that continues to come on, you can also go to the outside of the trailer and check those two black reset buttons on the outside of the hot water tank. The other thing in the bathroom is your GFI power outlet. Same as the outlets in the bathroom of your home with a test and reset button. The only difference in an RV is these are wired in line with several of your other power outlets. So if you trip your GFI, you'll have no power from any of your 110 volt power outlets. If you're plugged into power and you're not getting any power from your outlets, come in here, press the reset button, and everything should go back to normal. This is also where we find the park adapter. This is what goes on the end of your 30 amp power cord. We store it in here just for safekeeping, so you know where to find it when you need it. Here at the toilet, anytime you're using the RV's sewer system, make sure you're using a good potent toilet chemical. We have toilet chemical available in liquid, powder, or tablet form. And when you go to put a charge of toilet chemical into your tank, open up a package of chemical, put it into the bowl, pull halfway on the lever to fill the bowl with water. Once the bowl's full of chemical and water, dump the whole works down into the tank. That toilet chemical needs a little bit of water to activate it, so make sure every time you put chemical into the tank, you put some water down with it. And you'll want to put new chemical into the tank immediately following dumping that holding tank. So after you dump the tank, come into the trailer, put a new charge of chemical into the tank. You should be good until the next time you dump your tanks. What else haven't we covered? You've got a couple of safety features that you need to know about. This is your smoke detector, just like the one in your house. This smoke detector works off of a 9-volt battery. We'll install a new battery before you pick up the trailer, but it is important to test that battery once in a while and replace it when it's dead. The smoke detector will beep periodically when the battery's low, so you know that it needs to be replaced. There is also a propane leak detector here at the back, and this is a multi-function detector. It will do three things. It'll alert you to the possibility of a propane leak. It'll also alert you to a potential carbon monoxide situation. The third thing that it'll do is alert you to a low voltage situation. This does not have its own battery. It's wired into the RV's 12-volt electrical system. So if your battery gets too low, it'll chime just like a smoke detector with a low battery would. Doesn't mean that there's a propane leak or a carbon monoxide situation. It most likely just means you need to plug in the trailer to shore power or to the tow vehicle to charge that battery up a little bit. Here in the master bedroom, not a lot to cover in here. The bed lifts up for a little bit of storage underneath here. You've got a secondary TV location, backer in the wall there. If you're going to install a TV on an arm, just take extra precaution to make sure that you hit the backing. The sticker's not always exactly over the backing on for the TV. And I think for the most part that covers it. Hopefully you've learned something about the 2015 Sportsmen 290 IK. And if you have any other questions, you can always get a hold of us here at Trailblazer or check our website, trailblazerrv.com. Thanks for watching.